team. My name is Shelly, and your city is probably racist. Let's talk about mid-century urban renewal. So urban renewal is a pretty general term that refers to taking a built environment that is economically depressed and blighted and remaking that environment with an eye towards economic development and attractive housing. Here's a super quick history of urban renewal legislation in the United States. The Housing Acts of 1949 and 1954 gave a ton of federal money to cities for the purposes of slum clearance, meaning redeveloping urban residential areas. It also technically gave money to cities to build more public housing to make up for the housing that was being demolished in urban renewal projects. But let's dive into how racism ties in with urban renewal in the United States during the mid-20th century. We know from what I've talked about in other videos that around the time of mid-century urban renewal, the 1950s and 1960s, Black Americans really didn't have a lot of options for where they lived. Segregation was still very much legal and enforced by urban planning and policy. Because of this, most of the blighted inner-city urban residential neighborhoods were occupied by Black residents. Therefore, these urban renewal programs had a disproportionate effect on Black Americans. And the hope that residents displaced by urban renewal projects could move into new public housing didn't come to fruition. This is because many urban renewal projects of the 50s and 60s ultimately demolished more housing than they built. So city governments took Black neighborhoods that were already underinvested in, and instead of investing in the residents who already lived there, they displaced those residents into other already overcrowded neighborhoods. You can see if your city received any federal urban renewal funds and if any residents were displaced using this website from the Digital Scholarship Lab at the University of Richmond. Link in the description. Let's look at Cincinnati as an example. By 1970, about 6,700 families were displaced by urban renewal projects. The percentage of non-white residents in Cincinnati in 1970 was about 28% of the population. However, 93% of the families displaced by urban renewal were non-white. And here's the thing. There's nothing inherently wrong with investing in the built environment. We all want good streets, good sidewalks, nice homes, thriving businesses, and amenities like parks and libraries. But we have to ask ourselves, who are we investing in? Are we investing in residents who already live in a neighborhood? Or are we investing in potential future residents who may be more affluent? Are we investing in small business owners or in corporate chains? Are we supporting an existing neighborhood, or are we uprooting spatial history for the sake of private profit? One of my favorite examples of equitable urban development is the Melrose neighborhood in the Bronx in New York City. The neighborhood had been historically underinvested in, and it was majority Latinx. In the early 1990s, New York City started developing urban renewal plans for Melrose. Residents of the neighborhood caught wind of this and formed a grassroots organization because they recognized that urban renewal probably meant displacement. They called their group Nos Quedamos, which means we stay. Nos Quedamos brought their concerns to city council, who actually listened. A number of stakeholders were brought together, including Nos Quedamos, a private architecture firm, and the city's planning department. What followed was investment in and redevelopment of Melrose, with an eye towards affordable housing for existing residents. Today, Nos Quedamos continues to work with the city to build modern, affordable, environmentally sustainable, multi-use housing for marginalized residents in the neighborhood. But this is certainly not the norm. I invite you to do some research into contemporary urban renewal projects in your city. Look what's happening particularly around your downtown. Are new luxury apartments being built? Are they replacing affordable housing? Who is being served by urban redevelopment in your city, and whose voices are being left out? My name is Shelly, and your city is probably racist.